Hey everybody, this is Modern Refugee, still having my coffee. And I'm going to address a question here that I've been asked recently by a friend of mine. And it's a question that I've heard before, and I figured it was time that I do a video on it specifically. And I was asked recently by a good friend of mine who's not a prepper at all, what should I have for preparedness? What should I have if, something goes wrong? What do I need? And I gave them a very basic list of things, which I'm going to share here with you guys. A couple of them are physical things, and a couple of them are mindset things. And for most people, these few things that I'm going to say here will be beneficial to you if something goes wrong. Now, I am going to use kind of two different situations here that I feel are very common. One is power outages, and two is weather-related events. I think most things where people get themselves into trouble are going to revolve around those two things. Now, I'm not going to go off, about the whole grid collapse and that kind of stuff, which, in this day and age is more and more possible, I feel, every day. But I'm going to keep it with simple, basic, localized, regional type events. And the things that I told them is you need to have some kind of light. You need to have some type of charging equipment for your phone or your device. And you need to have something to take care of water. And then I'm going to add another one in here, a first aid kit. Those are the physical things. And as far as lights go, if the power goes out and you're not, or even if you're at home, but if you're in like a public place or you're at work or something like that, the power goes out. A lot of people work in big buildings. Those big buildings don't have a lot of windows as a general rule. And if you happen to be working second shift or the night shift, there's a good chance you're going to be sitting in the dark. Well, it's hard to get anything done. So the two lights that I always recommend everybody should have, they should have a headlamp and they should have some type of handheld light. And then they should have a set of those in their home, and they should have another set in their vehicle, because there's a good chance if something goes wrong, you're going to be in one of those two places. It's not 100%, but if you're at home, you're going to have the stuff at your house. If you're at work or school or you went out shopping or something happens, you're going to have your vehicle, you're going to have access to your vehicle. Okay, so those are the two places where you want to kind of keep these things. Now, these two lights, can navigate you out of a big building. If you're at work, let's say you work in a big office building or something, it'll be able to get you out of that situation, get you out in the daylight, let you know once what's going on. If you're at your house, if you got a light, you can go check your power box. You can have a little bit of sense of security because you've got a little bit of light and you can see what you're doing. You can prepare a meal or whatever. The next is communications. Not everybody has a cell phone or smartphone nowadays, but a lot of people do. And I found this over the years to be probably the most beneficial thing, and that is to have battery packs and charging cords. Now, this is just a battery pack that I pulled out of one of my packs with a charging cord that's Ranger banded onto the pack. And you can see there, it's at 100%. You want to have a couple of battery packs. You want to have one at your house. For some reason, you can't charge your phone by normal means or your device. And you want to have one in your vehicle so you can charge on the go if something happens to your vehicle or whatever. Yes, there are lots of deficiencies in the cell phone network and in the grid and stuff. But as a general rule, if something happens and you need to call for help, you need to call a family member or whatever, your cell phone is going to be your first line of defense to that. That's the first thing that most people are going to pick up in most situations. Are they 100%? No. But as a general rule, there's something that everybody has, and you got your contact lists in there, friends and family. You get into trouble, you can call somebody, you can call emergency services, but you can't do that if your phone's not charged. And I'm going to give you an example of that. The charging cord, especially when our kids were little and they were in school, the school got locked down, and they were there well past the time. Parents didn't know what was going on. My kids actually had charging cords, and those charging cords allowed other kids to charge their devices so they could call their parents and say, hey, everything's okay, we're just waiting for them to let us go or whatever. So you cannot discount the ability to charge a phone, charger and cord. You should have multiple ones of those. You should at least have one at your home and one in your vehicle. And that's that. The next thing I said is water. You need to have the ability to have water, because water is important. If I learned anything from being sick last year, I didn't eat solid food for over a month. You're going to live if you don't eat solid food. But it's a lot better if you do eat solid food. But if you don't eat solid food, you're not going to expire right away. Now, water, on the other hand, is much more important and much more valuable in any type of situation. So I said you should have a certain amount of water at your place, at least a couple of days worth for every, and then I use the old, 1 gallon per person per day for drinking, but it's actually more than that for, cleaning, washing, and cooking. But I did the bare minimum. You should have 1 gallon per person per day. A lot of the cases of water that you buy are typically between 3 and 4 gallons for 1 case of water. So if it's 1 person, 2 people, if you have 2 cases of that water put up, you have enough drinking water for 3 to 4 days as a general rule. And then I said you should have a water filter, because how many times have you heard where municipal water or whatever, there was some type of boil water advisory, you need to boil water? Well, if you don't have the ability to boil water, whatever, you don't have any camping gear, you don't have an electric stove, you live in an urban environment where you just can't go out and cut some wood down and start a fire to boil your water, you're going to need something to make that drinking water safe. And especially, like I said, if there's a power outage or something, there can be a, boil water advisory is pretty common. And I said you should have a basic water filter. These don't react real well to freezing temperatures, so if you live in a warm climate, you can throw one of these in your vehicle. But if you live in a cold climate, you need to keep these warm, so these need to stay in a purse or a pack or something like that, so these don't freeze, because if these freeze, they go bad. But if they're not frozen and there's some kind of situation like a boil water advisory or something like that, this at least gives you the bare minimum to filter some water, and without using a lot of energy or having the ability to boil it. Because I can see where in an urban environment especially, you might not have the ability to boil water if there's some type of power outage. And those Sawyer filters, they all go on large water bottles, and there's lots of these laying around. So that was my next thing. The other thing is a first aid kit, just a basic first aid kit. This is the one out of my pickup truck. I carry one in my pickup truck, and then I have the first aid kits here at home. But a couple of basic first aid kits to take care of minor illnesses and minor injuries. One in the vehicle and one at home. And the next thing is clothing. Being prepared for the elements in your area. I don't know how many times I've seen this. People were in their shorts. They said, I'm just going to run up to the store for something. It's wintertime. Something happens, and they can't get back home, and they don't have no clothes on. They're basically freezing to death. Another thing, too, is people that work inside office buildings or something. They drive through a rural area. They slide in a ditch. And now, because they work inside all day, they don't have any cold weather clothing. And now you're in the ditch. You're in a snowbank. Now what do you do? So now you're freezing again. So you always want to have clothing for your environment, the worst extremes of your environment. You want to have that clothing either on you or with you, the ability to put that on, which means either in your office, in your vehicle. Of course, you're going to have that stuff when you're at home. But if you leave your home, you want to have that clothing on you. So those are the basic preps for non-prepping people that I wanted to mention. You want to have the ability to make light. You want to have the ability to charge your stuff in this modern world. You want to have the ability to make yourself safe drinking water. You want a first aid kit. You want to protect yourself from the elements, and that means the proper clothing for the season and where you live in the country. But anyway, this is Modern Refugee. I appreciate all my subscribers out there. Hope you guys get a little information, a little entertainment out of this video here, and something to think about. And feel free to share this video with any folks that you know that aren't into preparedness and they need a basic starting point. You guys have a good one.